Well, I've just completed one drone contract, and my next one doesn't start for about a month, and so the Nissan Frontier is back here in the shop. Well, why is it in the shop instead of in my employee's house? Damn it. That's not a huge deal. That's why I have an employee's truck instead of my own. Sometimes this kind of thing just happens. She was backing down basically a driveway and was backed through an opening and kind of swung the front end around, and there was a post hidden inside some blackberries. She brushed the blackberries, caught the edge of the fender, and ripped the front bumper off. Unfortunately, the fender's ruined. Some plastic pieces behind there are ruined. The fender liner probably needs to be replaced, and it tore the front bumper cover. You know, wrecking yard parts, probably 500 bucks worth of stuff. You can buy that stuff new and paint it. Definitely going to have to do something with the fender, but when I built this Nissan, I intended to put a winch and a winch bumper on the front of it, and so this is my cue. This is the time to do that. I looked at several pre-made options. There's really not a whole lot for the Frontiers out there. I did look at a couple of the plate bumper kits. Anything that's pre-built is, you know, in the $1,500 range. Any of the kits are, you know, $500, $600, $700, and really not a fan of the way that any of those look. And besides that, I got to weld those together and paint them anyway. So I've built several front bumpers before. It's actually a lot of work, but since there's really nothing out there that I like for the Frontier, I decided I'm going to take a little bit of time, draw it up in CAD, and then send it all to my CNC plasma table right here, and we'll cut all the parts and pieces out. And since I've got two Nissan Frontiers, I figured I'd save all the CAD files. If I like the way that the one bumper turns out, then I can just cut out another one out of the CNC table. Okay guys, I've got a few hours this evening to work out in the shop, so we're going to get started on this Nissan repair. Now, looking at this dent right here, I'm not sure how well it'll show up on the camera, but some of these gouges go down into the base metal. I can actually see metal shining through below the primer. Got a pretty dang good kink right here. There may be some really awesome paintless dent guys out there that may be able to get this out, but I don't know any of them. I live quite a ways away from town, and so it's just not worth trying to track someone down that might be able to get it out. And even then, I'd still have touch-up paint to do because it is through down into the metal below. So I've decided to order a new fender for this, and obviously I'll have to prime and paint it and everything, but I think that's going to be the best way to go. I actually looked through several sources and ended up ordering one off of Amazon. It was about 150 bucks, but it was with shipping and everything. But it's here, so tonight we're going to pull this thing off and replace it with that new fender. Just want to bolt it into place before I paint it, just to make sure it's going to fit properly. And I'm going to get started on the winch bumper design for this thing. Now, I've had it sitting here for a couple weeks, so I've had the opportunity to kind of sit down and look at it and decide what I wanted to do. And I've decided that I really don't want to try and build anything up in this area up here. There's too many compound curves and things. Any winch bumper that I build is going to look kind of funny. So what I think the best thing to do is, there's a natural body line here. Now this is all one piece here, but this line, if I was to cut this and leave the top piece in place, just remove this bottom half, that would give me a pretty good location to build a bumper that wouldn't be too difficult to build. And it'll still look pretty good with the truck's existing body lines. Now, unfortunately, this bumper cover is pretty jacked. It tore this flange off right here, and I don't think there's a good way to repair that. I'm gonna have to buy one of these too. I haven't done that yet. A little frustrating because now I'm buying basically all the parts I need to rebuild this, and I'm still doing some custom metal fab, but is the way it is. So my basic plan is to take this bottom half of that bumper cover off. I'm going to build a mounting bracket system that bolts to the frame rails that actually holds the winch. And then I'm going to build a separate piece that bolts to that bracket system that is the actual kind of cosmetic winch body. I'll have a couple of lights that I'm going to put on it, and then fair lead for the winch cable. And I don't have a firm plan in place. I haven't drawn it up in CAD or anything like that. So my design may change. It'll evolve as I go here, but I am going to save all the pieces that I design in CAD and cut out with the CNC table so that the design can be duplicated at a later date. All right, that bumper cover was super easy to remove. A couple of these things were a little bent, but that's all right. I'm not too worried about that. Now really all I had to do is pull this fender skirt back so I could pull these couple of bolts right here, and basically the whole thing just fell off because this side was already torn off over here. I already ordered this piece here. It's a plastic piece that's a bracket that bolts the bumper cover to the fender. So we're going to just move on here and get this fender removed. I actually don't think it's going to be very difficult. I'm going to get the new one out just to look at it and see where all the mounting points are, but clearly I'm going to have to pull these couple of bolts and disconnect the fender liner from inside there. I'm going to pull the headlight out just to make sure I don't have anything back in here that has to be removed, but basically this series of bolts that goes right along here will be removed. The inner fender is just going to stay in here, and that's what all this stuff is bolted to, so I don't think I have to remove very much of that stuff. I am going to lose this hood prop right here, so I'll have to find some way to hold the hood up. And obviously there's going to be some bolts down the inside and along the bottom there. Boy, there's just not much to this. Pleasantly surprised at how easy this thing looks like it's going to be to get out of here. See if you can see down in there, there's this foam stuff right here, and it's gluing the fender to the body right there. I'm going to try and use this drywall knife to help detach that adhesive. Okay, fast forward a couple of days and we got our new fender right here. I haven't taken the cover off yet, so I'm gonna do that and get to work doing some prep work, and if I'm lucky, I'll get it painted this evening. I wanna preface this by saying, not an auto body expert. This is not a how-to video. Fortunately, this truck's a work truck, and as soon as I'm done painting this and everything, it's gonna be right back out in the woods. It's gonna be all dirty and pinstriped and have rock chips and everything, so this is not necessarily a show quality project right here. I mean, I'm gonna try and make it look good. I got matching paint. It's gonna be 2 stages. I'll put a few clear coats on it and everything else, but I mean, I'm gonna try and do a good job, but I'm sure the internet's gonna tell me exactly how I screwed it up. Well, let's get to work, get this cover off, and get to sanding. Obviously this came in black primer right here, and the finish looks pretty good, so obviously I'm going to have to scuff this up a little bit, probably get some, maybe like some 600 grit or 1000 grit sandpaper and wet sand this whole thing, and then degrease it, and it should be ready to shoot a base coat on right after that. Just a quick test fit here. Obviously I haven't bolted anything on, but I'm just making sure that the body lines look straight, all the holes line up and everything, and the gaps look nice and even. The holes all line up here. This front bracket, headlight bracket and everything, that looks like it lines up. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure this thing would actually bolt into place once I painted it, and everything looks like it's going to fit pretty good. At least I can get a decent shot at making the panel gaps even and straight. We'll take this thing back into the shop and start on our prep work. Okay, I got my fender propped up here on my sawhorse with my Fender O-Matic 2000. Actually, it's just a couple pieces of scrap metal that I had laying around the shop. It's just a plate that I welded with a rod. And then I have up here another piece of this rod that goes along here. That keeps the fender from twisting around. That way it won't spin around as I'm painting it. It does rock a little bit, but it's mostly held into place. I think it should work pretty good for me. On the old fender, the entire inside of the fender was in primer. So this whole area was just in primer, but it was like kind of a desert tan color. It really wasn't quite as obvious as this black is. This surface here was painted, but it's not really that visible. This surface here is definitely visible. And of course the outside right here, this surface was also painted. I got to make sure I get in under here. And then this is visible inside the door jamb, so I need to make sure that this is painted and clear coated pretty well. This surface here, when the hood's up, is also visible. So I've degreased everything and let it dry for about an hour. I don't see any water droplets or anything anywhere, and I wiped it down with a lint-free cloth. So I think I'm ready to mix up my paint and start spraying some on there. Now, metallic silver is a difficult color to match. It's because the paint looks different from different spraying techniques and different angles and different pressures and everything else. It's because the reflective particles that are in there, you know, how closely they are spaced together and how they're oriented varies based on the pressure and distance and everything else that you're spraying. So again, this will be a miracle if I can make it actually match the factory spray, but I'm going back to that. It's okay if it's not perfect. All right, well, that's our first coat. We'll let it flash for about 10 minutes and then put another coat on. Wait another 10 minutes and then do a third coat. Okay, done with coat 2. It's actually starting to look like the right color here. I don't have any runs or sags or imperfections or areas repelling paint or anything. So far, pretty happy with it. Let it flash for another few minutes here and then shoot on the third coat. Well, that is coat number 3. I just finished spraying it, so it might still look a little bit splotchy as it flashes here, but I'm actually pleasantly surprised with how even the silver metallic came out on there. I think it's going to look pretty good. Good enough for me anyway. We'll allow this about 30 minutes here to flash, and then we'll put about 4 coats of clear on it. But yeah, so far so good. I think this is going to be perfectly acceptable for my work truck. All right, well, the fender is on, and I'll let you look at it and kind of judge for yourself. I'm not sure how much this shows in the camera, but the color is actually a really good match. You know, right here in the direct sunlight, you really can't tell any difference at all. There's a little bit of orange peel texture on there. I'm sure it'll buff out, but I hate to monkey with it too much and end up messing up the clear coat on there. At any rate, I didn't expect perfect results, but this actually turned out better than I thought it would. It's not professional, but you know, 99 out of 100 people are never notice the difference. All right, guys, I'm going to stop this video right here. I'm already at the 20-minute mark, and I don't want to do a feature-length movie on a bumper build project. So next video is coming out in about a week. Actually, at this point that I'm editing this video, I've already got the bumper built. It just needs to be cleaned up and painted. So I'll give you a sneak preview of that as soon as we're done here. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you on the next video.